Today's video, we're going to be talking about the tropics, where we've downgraded to having just one tropical disturbance to go over today. We are going to dive into the upcoming pattern where a potential major snowstorm could be taking place for a lot of the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. We're also going to be talking about the winter time. We're going to go month by month into those temperature outlooks for the months of November, December, and January, and I think even February we're going to go over in just a little bit. Now, before we do, be sure to check out Prestige Weather in the description and pinned comment down below. We do have our third winter forecast up and available for early access, so you'll gain instant access to that for only $5 a month, as well as other consulting services within our community. Check it out today in the pinned comment and description down below. Let's dive into things. Like I mentioned before, we do have our tropical disturbance, and we have a 20% chance of development over the next 48 hours. And then over the next 7 days, we do have a medium 60% chance of development. So this one has more chance than not of developing very late in the season here. It's Halloween Day today. That is very late for the hurricane season. Not unheard of, but not the most active time. And as we move into November, we will see that tropical season ending. So we are very close to the end of the line here. Let's just dive into the upcoming pattern. We will, of course, keep you guys up to date with that tropical disturbance through its entire life. So we will be taking a look at that for the coming days. As we take a look at the current situation, we do have some snowfall showers happening across the Great Lakes and upper Midwest today. We also have some showery activity across the southeast, so there is plenty of that happening. And cold air rapidly moving in, and as we're going to see overnight into tomorrow, we're going to see very cold air enter into the eastern states. And honestly, we may get our first chance at flakes for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic for the day tomorrow. As you can see, this is going to be the afternoon hour, so probably around the high temperatures, and higher elevation areas in Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire are going to start to see flakes flying, most likely through the day tomorrow on November 1st. As we reach Thursday, November 2nd, we can see that there is plenty of precipitation. There's some showers, storms around for Washington and Oregon. Even Idaho seeing some rainfall, even in the higher elevations. But the areas further towards the east, like Montana, some portions of Idaho, and even Wyoming, we are seeing snowfall as well. Up in the Canadian Rockies, we're seeing snowfall as well. So this storm is creating a plethora of impacts here, I would call it. Let's keep going. By the time we're taking a look at Friday, November 3rd, you can see that there is a lot of very isolated and very light showers happening around the Canadian-US border. So all of these areas are seeing that take place. By the time we reach towards Saturday here on November 4th, we can see that there is plenty of storminess around for areas in Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and even into Montana. Very minimal snowfall on the United States side of things, as you can see, but we have once again another storm system moving on to the northwest, which is going to be a common theme here. I'm just going to take us hour by hour here, because we do start to see some snowfall take place for Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana as we reach the overnight hours, Saturday into Sunday. As we reach further into Sunday morning and afternoon, we do see some snowfall around for, again, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming taking place. By the time we are reaching towards Monday afternoon, we see another storm system moving into the northwest. Again, mostly rainfall. There is some snowfall for some very high elevation areas. We're starting to see the east get a little bit more active as we have another cold front moving in. So some rainfall taking place for a lot of these areas further towards the south. Some snowfall up there in eastern Canada. As we reach Tuesday, though, this is when we get our potential snowstorm. 998 over western Pennsylvania, and areas to the north of this system are mostly where we're watching for snowfall. So we're going to have to watch this closely. And why I think that is because if this low, there's plenty of time, by the way, 168 hours out. If we see this trend northward, then likely the chances of United States snowfall is completely gone. If we see this trend southward, same story with the cold. So if the cold and this low pressure system trend a little bit further south, and this can also happen as a result of that low happening a little bit later. So if, let's say, by this point the low is here as opposed to Pennsylvania, then we would see it come in further south. You may be talking about more snowfall further south for a lot of these areas. So there is some pretty major possibilities once you take a look at the different outlooks and different things that could happen. 996 now over eastern Pennsylvania. By the time we're reaching Tuesday afternoon, we do see snowfall happening now for northwestern Pennsylvania, a lot of western and northern New York, and same story for Vermont and surrounding states. And the further east that low goes, and the further east that cold comes, the more snowfall we see spreading as this cold air damming is what we call it happens. And that's always happening to the west of the low here because we have the cold front here, warm front there, and once that cold front passes, you see a lot more areas switch over to snow as the temperatures drop. This is as we're approaching Wednesday morning, very early, 2 or 3 a.m. here on November 8th. And then at about 6 a.m., we see this spreading all the way towards the coast in New England, maybe even Boston, seeing flakes flying here for Wednesday the 8th. And then eventually we see that come to an end, of course. More cold air is on the way behind it, but more warm air before that happens is probably what would end up happening. Take this all with a grain of salt. This is very long range as far as everything is concerned. But we have another cool down rapidly on the way, a very potent one by the time we're reaching Thursday the 9th, and this is the heart of that cold air here, and this is kind of on its way towards the east. But before that happens, what we see is a jet stream that looks like this. So we have warm air surging ahead of things, but this cold air is rapidly moving in. This is a lot of what we've seen over the past few weeks, and I expect that this would happen the same way. As long as this stays true in future model runs, that is what we can anticipate happening. Now, total precipitation, the Northwest is really the highlight area for the most stormy activity. We do see that the Ohio Valley into the Northeast experiences a lot, both in the form of rainfall and snowfall. Speaking of snowfall, look at this. We do have plenty expected for the mountainous west over the course of the entire model run, but we also get pretty large amounts here. Again, just like I said yesterday, you want to take these amounts with a grain of salt, and probably it's going to be significantly less than this, potentially even half of this, I would say, is pretty realistic. So anywhere in the grays is expecting a dusting, if anything, according to the map, but likely none of that would accumulate here actually. The blues, 2 to 6 inches, you're maybe looking at a dusting, if anything, maybe 1 or 2 inches. If anything, again, the purples are 6 to 10. That's maybe where we could be more expecting 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. The pinks are 10 to 20. So again, maybe looking at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches, where on paper here it would look like 10 to 20. This is all just because of the milting and how early in the season this is, by the way. And then we do have some pastel blues there over northern New York, kind of the Adirondacks area, where we are seeing 20 inches plus. You're maybe looking at 10 inches plus in a more realistic scenario there. That is kind of how I interpret these amounts due to the, again, milting, the sun angle, just how early in the season we are. That is what you would expect if this model run was perfect. So keep in mind there can also be major changes here on the actual projected low pressure system, location, temperatures, so much can change. As of now, that is what this is showing, and that is what I interpret this as, just for transparency. The temperature pattern, again, we do have cold air on the way for tonight into tomorrow, and that is going to last through into the weekend, where we do see things warm up, especially as we reach Monday, Tuesday timeframe. We're seeing significant warm air. But once we reach Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe, mostly later on Tuesday into Wednesday, we do get another more brief cool down here. This is pretty significant, actually. We do see 10 to 15 degrees below normal. It's just not quite as significant as this one we're seeing now is. And then at the end of the model run, we do hold on to some of this colder air through the 9th here, as you can see, for the East Coast. But we do have warm air surging to the west, and this likely will work its way further east and further north over time, especially when you look out west and we see this colder air sitting here. That is likely to support warmer air moving eastward, as that is a negative PNA. Now, as promised, let's go over the monthly outlooks. This is for the rest of October, which, as we know, is one day, so, not a huge forecast here. It is going to be quite cold. November here, this is actually, I think, a really good outlook from this model, because we see cold along the eastern seaboard, and that's already what we're kind of expecting to see through the first 10 days of November. That is a third of the month, so that is a good estimate, and then warmer temperatures overall for the west. As long as the final 2/3 of November aren't completely opposite, this is likely a really good estimate of what to expect. December, this model expects a lot of the same, except this cold is pretty exclusive for the Northeast. January, we get a lot closer to what we saw in November here, so cold up and down this eastern seaboard, likely storms moving along this area too. could be quite snowy, could be quite cold as a result of this. We do have a lot of positive temperatures here for the upper Midwest and kind of the Great Lakes, though. I don't know how much I really expect that, especially if we see this warm along the coast. I anticipate there would be a lot more cold moving into the upper Midwest as well as the east here, like we're seeing. That is a lot more of what I would expect. Working your way from west to east, this doesn't look completely congruent with what my thoughts would be. So I'll just put that disclaimer out there. Anyway, be sure to subscribe for more daily weather videos just like this one. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.